With one consuming roar along the shingle, the long wave claws and rakes the pebbles down to where its backwash and the next wave mingle, a mounting arch of water weedy brown. Against the tide the offshore breezes blow. O wind and water, this is Felixstowe.
Right, I think this is likely to be the last AM only radio that I feature. And it's not even one I was going to restore. It's a Hacker Herald. We've seen the Hacker VHF only Herald, which we did a few weeks ago. And then now we've got the Hacker Herald, which is medium wave and long wave only. This is one that I wasn't actually even ever going to restore. I just got it to mainly to rob bits off it. But actually I've found there's not many bits that I can rob from it. This didn't have the handle. And that's the handle was the thing I wanted for my VHF one. It's got this grill which I could use for the Sovereign, I think, and it's not very well stuck on, as we can see. I'm not sure it's even the right colour, but it will go on the Sovereign okay, and I've been looking for a grill for the Sovereign for a while. Don't know what this socket is for. It was sold to me as not working and not making any sound. That didn't entirely surprise me, because even from the pictures on eBay I could see that the speaker wasn't connected. That's probably a good indicator that you're not going to get any sound out of it, but equally it makes you a bit suspicious. So why has someone disconnected the speaker? They should be wired off, these two terminals here. This is a pretty standard Hacker audio amp board, so we should be able to fix that if that's the problem. My worry is that maybe something went wrong with this and it took out the speaker. That would be a shame, because this speaker is really looks quite a nice piece of work. Massive old Goodman's thing, made in England at Wembley, and it would be a shame if that didn't work, because I'm sure you can get pretty good sound out of it, admittedly only on AM. One of my views on this was I could take this long wave coil here and put it in my Sovereign, because the long wave coil I ended up putting back in the Sovereign when the one in there failed wasn't really very good and didn't tune in very well. That said, you know, there used to be, at the end of last year, or towards the end of last year, 3 stations on long wave. RTE Radio 1 turned off yesterday, leaving Radio 4 as the only occupant of the long wave band now, and I have to say I don't think that's going to be around for long, which makes the issue of my Hacker Sovereign's poor long wave performance, I think, somewhat academic. So is it really worth stripping all this out? I think it might just be worth, as a last hurrah, just getting this thing working and see if we can just have it still going while there are still any AM stations left to listen to. So I think the first thing I'm going to do here is to see if the speaker is actually good. So I'm going to try and wire that speaker up and see if we can get any sound out of it. Well, I've fed this from the old Philips cassette player, which, as you can hear, got a bit of hum on the main supply, but we'll see how that goes.
And then one day Frank became a hero. It was a Monday, and WLT went off the air. The transmitter shuddered. The air went dead about halfway through the noontime jubilee during a commercial for Evelyn Pies. I don't care if the meat is pale, if the soup is thin, and the jokes are stale. If the gravy's lumpy and the spuds are dry, you can make it up to me with 'em. And then nothing happened for a while.
Well, the speaker's definitely working. I can't hear a lot of distortion on there. There's not a lot of bass comes out of this cassette deck, but I think I'd have heard if it was completely gone. So that's optimistic. At least the speaker works, so we can connect it back up, but I suspect the amplifier doesn't. So this is a typical Hacker dual PP9 arrangement here. What I've done is I've turned it on. Obviously the speaker's not connected. I'm just going to measure across those 2 speaker output terminals and see if we get any DC on them, because that will potentially be a problem. Well, 7.5 volts DC on there, that doesn't look particularly good. We don't have any load on it, so the capacitor may not have discharged, so I think what I might do actually is just put a dummy speaker load across there and see if that makes any difference. So this is just a big 8 ohm resistor. I'm going to stick that across there. So obviously I don't want to put the speaker across it, because the speaker itself would not appreciate having 8 volts across it. So I don't want to damage the speaker, but on the other hand, I do want to check to see if it does settle down to 0 volts. So let's turn this on again and measure across the resistor. So that's gone down a bit. Yeah, so that's much better now. That is definitely going down, so the capacitor is discharging through that resistor, which I expect is getting a bit warm. No, it's not getting warm at all, actually. Let's turn that up a bit, see what we get now. Yeah, that's pretty much 0 volts. So we should be able, really, to connect the speaker up to that output. I'm not sure why it's been disconnected. So I've wired the speaker up. I don't have proper connections for these. I'll have to do that and solder them in later. But so it does feel like there's some DC on the DC somewhere from that sound. I measured it again across the speaker, and it's not too bad across there. So it looks like the audio amplifier isn't good. If I turn it up and get past this, I don't get any sound or any static even. So so I think the audio amplifier is going to have to be looked at first. In terms of the RF, I do note that there are our old friends, the AF117s here. So one or more or all of those may have gone. But should be a simple matter to fix if that's the case. There aren't a lot of components here in this set. So these amplifiers, again, as I said, are pretty standard across the Hacker range and probably not too bad to fix. So let's get that audio amplifier out and have a look at that. So the amp wasn't screwed in properly. It only had one bolt holding it, one nut holding it in, when the other nut had gone missing. But then when I take it out, it says faulty. Well, I think we can pretty much guarantee that's faulty, yes. And it's because somebody's even written faulty on it. Been slightly better if they'd actually fixed the fault. Or maybe they did fix the fault and it's reoccurred. I don't know. I think if probably measuring around this might be worth it, or on the off chance it might be just worth replacing the caps. Now, before I went much further, I thought, is this really faulty? Because it's just that somebody's written faulty on it. And the volume control is before this anyway. So I thought I'll just try putting some audio through this amplifier.
Snuggle it back. The two centre halves will exchange passes quite wide towards tops and this nears.
And although there isn't a lot of bass there, it may be down to the source that I'm using, and may be that there are a couple of capacitors need changing which would improve that. But in any case, that DC and that noise isn't really coming from this amplifier, so I think the audio amp is okay, and we need to turn our attention to the RF section. Right, well, it took a bit longer than I'd hoped, as usual. I was a bit ham-fisted with these transistors here. There's 3 of them. They're sort of mounted on stalks on the board, which also made it a little difficult, because they're soldered right through those little pins there and through holes onto the back of the PCB, which makes them quite difficult to remove. And in the process, as I said, I was a little bit clumsy and pulled some of the legs off the transistors, but they're all AF117s anyway. The first one I did get out intact, and that was, I think, this one here at the end, and that'd be the last transistor, I think. Yeah, that's TR3, and that definitely was duff and didn't work, but replacing it didn't fix it. So I changed the other 2 anyway, because I'd broken them and couldn't even test them, but it's clear that at least 2 of those dreaded AF transistors are gone, so they've all been changed now. I also changed all the capacitors, all the electrolytic capacitors on there while I was at it. I then turned my attention to the amplifier board. So with that, I don't think there was a massive amount wrong with it, as I said, but I did change the capacitors anyway. I also replaced this. They had these connectors which are similar to that for the speaker ones. All the Hackers have that, but I don't have any spare pin side connectors for it, so I just put one of these plastic headers on and wired it back up to that. So that's sorted the speaker wiring out, and then screwed it down properly. Mechanically, cosmetically, as we know, there were a few issues with it, but at least now it does actually work.
Sponsors stand by.
I value a name I can count on.
And there's loads of reasons to count on Vanguard. 1.
45 years of investment experience.
2.
So I think it does have quite a nice design in the end. You can see it's got this colour-coded bands, which I quite like, of the medium wave and long wave. These things do work. Long wave, I can't turn it round, so...
The SNP has denied it's facing bankruptcy because of a drop in membership and donations.
It would sound better than that if I could turn it to the right position, but obviously I've got it all in pieces here at the moment.
Have to listen to what nursing is saying. Is nursing and the NHS, it's in a crisis. We're very clear that we have to continue with action until we...
Bass and treble controls have been a bit of a problem. I've cleaned those up as far as I can, but I think they're basically just damaged. Is it worth me actually trying to get replacements for them? I think probably not, because as we discussed earlier, I think, you know, this radio isn't going to have a very long life as a radio receiver, really. I also think it's a bit odd that you'd have bass and treble controls on an AM radio, but I suspect that's because Hacker had this standard amplifier part and they just put it in all their radios. So if they have that and it has bass and treble controls set up for it, you might as well put them on your radio, I suppose.
Much for joining us. Yeah. Firstly, where are you?
We're by County.
Oh.
Just back. Just left out here and then.
In terms of, you know, when you've finished, we need to sort of look after you and make sure that you're into society. Where am I going to go? I don't know. You could see was like a black hole in front of you with more issues.
Breaks in February when you're kind of coming back to a sprint finish, but this one's been unique that we've got.
So there we are, that's the Hacker Herald RP30, and it's nice to get it back working again. I mean, it was completely dead when we got it for some obvious and some not so obvious reasons. Is there really a future for these sort of radios? For me, probably no. I wouldn't get any more AM-only radios, I think I said earlier on. This is a nice set, and the sound from it is really good. As far as AM radios go, it's up there with the Bush ones. But we have to face facts. In terms of decent reception, we can get here just about gold on a good day. We can get TalkSport, 5 Live, and Caroline. On long wave, we can now still get Radio 4 long wave, but obviously we lost RTE Radio 1 from Ireland yesterday. We lost Luxembourg at the end of last year, and then at the beginning of this year we lost Absolute Radio from medium wave. So I don't think this is going to be the end of it. You know, I think we're going to have nothing on long wave in a very short period of months, in my reckoning. And I'd hope to be wrong about that, but I think we are in the sort of dying days of AM radio in this country, which is a shame because these sets otherwise could carry on giving sterling service for quite a few years. And do we join in with the Bluetooth Fusiliers and try and make them into speakers of some sort? Well, you know, there's nothing to say you couldn't connect a smart speaker into it somehow. I think there's an audio output on the Amazon Echo. There's a strange socket been put in here. I don't know what it's for. It just seems like a single pin socket. It's not got any wires connected to it, so I don't know why they ever put that in. I think you could probably put an audio socket in there and somehow disconnect, or have something that on the audio socket auto switches and disconnects the feed from the tuner into the audio stage. And once you've done that, you've certainly got a very decent audio amplifier there. So perhaps that is the future for it. It's sad to say, but it's still a future, isn't it?